So most of you know the Pythagorean theorem. It's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And here they're asking you to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of this triangle. Well, the first thing I want you to do is to identify the hypotenuse. And what you're going to do is you're going to go from the right angle across the field, and this guy is your hypotenuse. Does everybody understand that? The sides that are touching the right angle are not the hypotenuse. Those are called legs. And the side that's across the field from the right angle is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always going to be C. Always, always, always. So this is the hypotenuse right here. And these are the legs in no order. It doesn't matter which leg you pick first, okay? A and B are both the legs. You can put them in any order. You're going to get the right answer. So I have the hypotenuse in one of the legs, so I'm going to put it in the Pythagorean theorem, and it's going to be x squared plus root 10 squared equals 2 root 3 squared. So if you put square root of 10 squared in your calculator, you're going to get a 10. I want everybody to make sure you know how to do that. And if you put 2 root 3 squared in your calculator, you have to put parentheses around it. You should get a 12. Make sure everybody gets a 12. Now, when I did these radicals, I did them in my head. So you can kind of check yourself. This is what I do when I do radicals, okay? And I've taken geometry 30 times, so that's why I'm a little bit more experienced in pre-cal.
Yeah,
so I'm like a kid that never gets out of high school. So the square root of 10 squared, a square undoes a hood, and a hood undoes a square. That's why it's equal to a plane 10. So anytime you square a square root, the answer is the number under the square root.
Yes.
Okay? Now look at the second one. It's got a 2 and a root 3. I square the 2 because he gets a square. That's 4. 2 squared is 4. And then the hood squared is 3. What's 4 times 3? 12. That's where I did it in my head. So check yourselves on these and don't get them wrong. So now I leave the x squared alone, and I get x squared equals 2 because I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. Got it? Well, is the x alone? No. We have to square root it. So in this case, x equals root 2, which is 1.41, I think. I will take the square root, or I will take the decimal, either one. Now, sometimes a leg is missing, but sometimes a hypotenuse is missing. You got to put the x where it goes. Don't put it just anywhere. Okay, so you put things where they go. All right, so this doesn't show you who has the right angle. The right angle is in the part that looks like an L, okay, in each of these problems. The reason that they don't have it marked is because they're asking you, is this a right triangle? You understand that?
Yeah.
So what you can do is you can put all these numbers in your calculator, and whoever the biggest guy is your hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the biggest guy. So what is the square root of 185?
13.6, yes.
So since this is 13.6, this guy is the hypotenuse, okay? Or it could be. We're going to see if it is. But that's the biggest side.
So just stay at
It's you got to see if it is or not. So this old man named Pythagoras figured out that if you take the 2 legs and square them, it equals the hypotenuse. So let's see if that works. So we have 8 squared plus 12 squared would have to be equal to 185 squared. Well, 8 squared is 64. 12 squared is 144 equals a plane 185 because the square and the hood undo each other, right? Everybody see what I got? So if it's 208 equals 185, is that a true statement?
No.
So he's not a right triangle, okay? If the answer was yes, it would have been 185 equals 185. The answer is yes. 208 equals 185, that's a big no, because they don't equal each other, okay? So that's why they don't mark it, because he's really not right. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rules first. Okay. So here they want you to find out if it's an acute, an obtuse, or a right triangle. You see the instructions on number 17? So here's the deal. If I have a triangle where, and I'm going to write the Pythagorean theorem in reverse. Here's the Pythagorean theorem. It helps you if you write it in reverse. Okay? So if c squared ends up being less than a squared plus b squared, that means c squared is smaller. That means that triangle is acute because the third side is smaller than the other two squared, okay? So when the hypotenuse is smaller than a squared plus b squared, that means that the triangle's more closed. You see? Here's the right angle. Everybody look at my fingers. Here's the right angle. When it gets smaller, that means it's an acute. It's less than 90. Got it? Because this side here would be smaller. When c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, it's going to be right. And when c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, that means it's bigger than that L. It opens up more. That's going to be obtuse. So let's find one here. Let's do number 17. And here's my triangle. And we don't know what it is. That's why they did not mark the... But here, if you don't know who the bigger side is, just put 2 root 11 in your calculator, and that would be like 6 point something or 7 point something. The 12's the hypotenuse. Well, it's the biggest side. So let's see. We've got the 12 squared. Put the c first on these. Equals, or we're going to find out what it's, 10 squared plus 2 root 11 squared. So 12 squared is 144. 10 squared is 100, plus 4 times 11 plus 44. The first one is right, so you're going to find, do the rest of them and see which one is right, obtuse. If you want to do a couple of each section and come up and I'll check them for you, make sure you're on the right track, okay?